First time I've done Facebook Live by myself without, a what do I want to say, a co-host who's really proficient at this because I'm certainly not, right? And I've been on Facebook Live for 6 years. So today, this weekend marks the very um, oh, first day of the 7th year. I've been doing these videos for 7 years now. Um, and doing them weekly and talking about what I'm noticing, what I'm seeing in my clients, what's working with relationships and energy and what isn't, right? Okay, so what I want to talk about today is spaciousness in our relationships, spaciousness within ourselves, and what are we noticing, right? So, the thing that I've noticed is that there seems to be something lifting, whether I'm talking with my clients and they're like, wow, something's different. It feels like I have a little bit more and they're trying to find it and I go space and they're like, yes, there's more space, something's different. And Lisa Gunshore and I talked about this um, on our Indigo Frequency, which was on Thursday, so you can find it here on YouTube. And we talked about sort of almost as if as the indigo work has changed, we've gone through like a black hole, and now we're on the open side of this amazing spaciousness, right? And what does that look like? So what I'm noticing is there's a sense of freedom. There's a weight being lifted off of my shoulders. That there's less contraction, that I'm not holding as tight as I usually do. And there's more space to think and to feel, right? So, because it always makes sense to start with a definition. So, space I thought was really interesting. It's the three-dimensional extent in which we have a relationship, you know, between events and objects that have a location and a direction. So, does that make sense? So, a three-dimensional, I'm trying to read the definition, it's right up here, in which objects and events have a relationship between location and direction. So, space means that it comes down into the 3D and it's our construct of space. Spaciousness is when we have enough room. When you get into a car that actually has leg room, or you get into a first class airplane, right? And you've got leg room. Wow. It's that there's large areas of space. There's extension for a little bit. There's more adequate space. And what I like about this is that it's expansion. So what happens when we have this huge expansion, right, of time and space, and we're like, "Whoa, I don't know quite what to do with this." So when we define spaciousness, it's the state or quality of being spacious, of being large, of being vast, of having this ample extent. Everything has space around it, right? When our space is tight, what I notice is that we contract, we manage, we try to control, we create conflict, like, hey, don't touch my stuff, stay away from this, or I can't think, so I'm just going to be really crabby with you, right? There's a hardness to it. There's almost like a pressure that comes in on top of us when we're in a tight space. And it's easy to become extremely irritable, right? I'm starting to get some messages up the side, which is super cool because I'm not usually the one who runs them. So, Carol, thank you for coming on. And I appreciate you being here. And for the rest of you, hello, hello. Um, when there is time and space, what I notice is that we expand, we open up, we soften. And the word that comes in over and over again is that we become more responsive. We become able to respond to the things around us, right? So I found a quote from Viktor Frankl in the work that I was doing, and I thought this was absolutely fabulous. So between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lives our growth and our freedom. So, our ability to choose what we're going to do with that space that shows up is where our freedom resides, right? So, why are we feeling space right now? Why are we feeling this like opening right now? And that's where I have this ability to take education, psychology, and metaphysics and bring them together and talk about them in a very practical way. So what's happening is that we are releasing old constructs, we are releasing old conditions. we are releasing all the old beliefs and institutions that have held us in place. And the way that I've explained it both in my Indigo, I'm looking for my Indigo frequency book to hold up, but I can't find it. Um, what I noticed is that when we have this constricted sort of space, or there's a conditioned response that we have as a culture, as a human culture. What happens is that we're in a closed loop system, which means that all of the grids on the earth are sort of contracted and holding us down. So we work, and then we work, and then we work, and we don't have the ability to sort of look outside. um, closed loop, what's another example of a closed loop? Thinking of the Jim Carrey film where his world was repetitive. He knew exactly who was gonna be at the store, who was gonna be this, who was gonna be that. And he didn't realize he was in a photo screen, or in a screen film set where the roof was even holding in his entire world. So that's what a closed loop system looks like. It's tight, it's repetitive. When the grids opened up and have been releasing in June, July, we're noticing chaos, right? Complete chaos, because it's expansive, it's vibrant, it's open space to move. There's freedom. We can feel, and it can be a very, very overwhelming, a lot of things to take in, right? So Zach Bush did a really good job of explaining the difference between masculine and feminine energy. And he said masculine energy is able to take something in the 3D, something that we need to work with, right? And build on them. So you take one hard thing and you build it onto another. So, I'm a mom. I grew up picking up Duplos and Legos. It's when you have all of these hard pieces and you can build things. You cut down a tree, you make lumber, you build a house. You move dirt, you build a garden. So it's the ability to take physical things and create with them. And anyone who knows, when you start collecting stuff and you have an overcrowded garage or shop, or an overcrowded house, or an overcrowded life, after a while there's no place for these things to go. So we're building, and then we're removing, and then we're building, and then we're removing, because the masculine has to have some space to work. Now, what's happened over the last 2,000 to 10,000 years in our history is that the masculine has been constructing the world, right? So when we introduce the feminine energy, which is the essence of how to hold things as they in relationship, but to provide space between them. So the feminine actually is the essence between physical objects. And if you've ever tried to build a tall tower or something creative that goes off on an angle, but physically it's difficult to get that to stay up there. But when we know that the feminine provides the essence for that to float, right? So that it allows us to expand. So what we're doing is we're introducing this feminine energy into our world, right? And that means responsiveness. That's receptivity. That's our ability to sort of move and flow. And this is all new to us. So spaciousness isn't something that we as a culture are very used to seeing, having, being, whatever, right? So we can have impatience with the old ways in our old relationships, whether it's our house or our job or our marriage, or, what are you noticing? Where are you impatient? Or where are you antsy, sort of excited, open, giddy, that there's light, there's space, there's freedom? And notice where you are, kind of like, it's almost like I feel us at times. I'm on a teeter totter, because I'm contracted, then I'm free, then I'm contracted, then I'm open, and I go back and forth like this, and it's kind of crazy making. And I'm noticing that my clients are talking very specifically to this, that they're trying to understand how the energy systems around them are changing. So when we have more space, our mind opens, our mind relaxes, our emotions can flow. So we can create freedom from these conditioned responses, from this patterned thinking, from these condensed routines, from these stifled emotions, when we relax and sort of let the space inform us. So we can, and one of the things that Lisa and I brought up in this indigo frequency was that sometimes freedom is really scary, especially if you're used to having a very tight, constricted life. I think we use the example of a dog who's always been in a kennel, and you open the kennel door and they might go out and play a little bit, but they come back into the kennel. You can take the fences down off of a ranch and the horses will still stay close. You can take a baby and swaddle them really tight and they remember the womb and they're like, I know this. And you take the swaddling off and they're like, too much space. I don't know what to do. It makes sense that it can be overwhelming and that this is going to take some time to get used to for a lot of us. So I have 4 tips for you today on what you can do. So number one is do a body check on yourself. Scan for tight spots, places that are letting go and they're releasing. And so what I've noticed is that in the last week, my shoulders and my hip joints are just aching. And I'm thinking, what have I done to my joints to make them ache so much? And I realized, what if, when you hold your hand really tight for a long time and you just hold it and you hold it and you hold it, and then you finally open it up, it's stiff and it hurts and you have to go at it really gently, right? So releasing the neck and shoulder is that you do this very slowly and you sort of massage them and you sort of go like, wow, I must have been holding on to a lot of stuff in there. And you relax and you enjoy this, like maybe something's shifting in me. And it is going to hurt at first. That makes sense, right? Number two, ease into your activities and movement. With yourself, with your partner, with your kids, slow down for the month of August. Just allow August to be sunny and warm and the end of summer vacation and relaxing, and slow it all down. If you have the choice of doing 4 things during the day, do 2. If you have the choice of just sitting and reading a book and allowing your body and your mind and your emotions to reacclimate, do that. Um, for 1 month, create more space. Create more space. Whatever you do, just kind of go like, what are my choices right now? I can fill it with the normal things that I do all the time, or I can relax, right? Okay. Number 3, use your breath to calm down. Use your breath to go in or out. Okay, sorry, I got it all twisted. Inhalation, exhalation. When we slow down our system and we allow our breathing, then our whole body relaxes, our mind relaxes, it lets go, it sort of expands, sort of like being condensed and really tight to starting to float open. And when we float open, feelings can come in, and feelings can come into our body, and we can go, oh, wow, I guess I've been sad for a really long time. Or I'm much happier than I've been. Or I just love this person more than I thought. And so what happens is our feelings start to expand too. And so they're going to come in. And part of what we've been working on is how to access our feelings. So part of that is by being able to open up and create space so that those feelings can come in. And number 4 is to be compassionate. That what you're going through is is different than anything we've experienced on this planet before. So be compassionate and curious. I wonder what's going on. What does it feel like? How much more open can I be? What if this is only the beginning and we're just starting to realize that there's so much more available as the feminine comes in, as the space creates, and as we have room to breathe and room to create. And know that as that stuff starts to loosen up, maybe the things that we were so tied to have to loosen up too, whether that's relationships, whether that's roles, whether that's jobs, whether that's this big house that I don't want to have to work so hard to take care of anymore. Be aware and compassionate that all of this is going to bring about changes in you. And, I was trying to figure out, like, how I'm gonna finish this, what kind of quote or how can I close this? And I was making my bed this morning, and I just kept hearing the Star Trek space, the new frontier, right? Or the, the final frontier. And I cracked up and I was like, no, it is the new frontier. It is the newest place that we have never really had before. And as it starts to open up, we are learning things for the first time. And we are pioneers and we are frontier men and women, and we are learning and growing as we go along. So if you want some help with this, if this is something that I can support you in, I do one-on-one coaching and I have tons of videos down here that you can click on. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share this because this is the new norm for me. I've got more space to perform and do what I want to do here on YouTube. So thank you very much, and I will see you next. Let's see, next Sunday, which will be just before the Lionsgate. So let's talk about the Lionsgate next week. Okay, take care.